Hello, everybody. A bit of a, I was gonna say a treat then, but like, oh fucking, oh, it's a treat. It's a new video. Luke, bow down, everybody. But just a bit of a
Well,
spur of the moment video that me and my good friend Adam, who spends his spare time ringing up poor people who work in call centres and ridicules them for a living. Isn't that right, Adam?
yes, I was going to say it is a treat because I'm here. So absolutely, it's a treat for all of your subscribers today.
So those poor
And we'll
people
be
in call centres will get a break
moist.
from you.
Yeah, for about half an hour, 45 minutes, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's 45 minutes. You're not terrorising poor people who are just trying to earn a loaf of bread for the family.
I'd like to clarify we are talking about criminals. I'm not just phoning up and abusing
Don't
them
listen to him, guys.
for
He's
my
talking
own
shit.
pleasure.
Anyway,
Sometimes.
we'll get onto your criminality at a later time. We wanted to discuss the person that you can see on the screen at the minute. Strangely enough, because this generally does seem to be the main theme of this channel.
Big surprise.
Yeah. This is something that I've been thinking about for quite a while, and Adam's been sort of mulling over it. We've done a few videos in the last couple of months or so about TCAP, Lorne, and I've been going through the lawsuits recently, and I suppose because of all the new trolling as well that were going on, which we don't really know a lot about, it's made myself, just from a personal point of view, it's made me question whether Lorne deserves what has been going on. That's another issue we're not really going to get into. I've said on many occasions, I personally think he should be left alone, but everybody's got their own take on it. I wanted to sort of examine the context of Lorne's crime and the reason that people like me make videos, and that he's got this bizarre fucking group of people like me, and even Adam to a lesser extent, that are interested in him. So it's to kind of explore the crime that he committed. It's kind of an unusual one. If you stop to think about it, anybody that's listening to this has a degree of fascination with Lorne, or you wouldn't be listening. But what he did, it's totally hypothetical. So there was no real victim. That was, you could say that the people involved in the decoy and all that, but really there was no child that was potentially going to get harmed, and you don't know if he'd have gone through with it or not. So it's kind of an unusual situation, and when I've been going through the lawsuits, I've got to be very careful how I word this, because you'll always get some idiots jumping up and down going, oh, he's defending him. Well, fuck off if that's what you think, because you're an idiot. But basically, what I'm trying to say is because his crime's hypothetical, we're judging on things that really hasn't happened. What's happened is the chat log, which we're going to go into. But what's your kind of view on it, Adam?
Well, I differ from that, and actually kind of partially when we discussed making another video for your channel, which we haven't done for a while, I said I had a few things today to say, and I disagree that his crime was hypothetical. I mean, had it been a real child, he still would have gone to the house. He still drove all the way there under the pretense. My kind of feeling, I was up late, and as per usual, Lorne slipped into my mind. And I started, well, in fact, actually, this came from the conversations that we have, because we make a lot of jokes about you being a pedo or me being a pedo because of the subject matter that we talk about. And we got chatting, didn't we? I think last time you were here about what the actual age of consent was in Spain, because it was a bit convoluted, because I know it had changed, or I wasn't sure if the change had gone through, because it used to be like 13. So I went on Wikipedia, it might have been last night or the night before, and I saw that it's actually 16 in Spain now. But I started looking through all the ages of consent in Europe, and Italy had the youngest age of consent, which was 14. However, you can still be prosecuted if that girl has not passed puberty, which, 14, I guess, is the age most sort of girls are finishing, but some are later developers. And this is why I start to think that Lorne is pretty despicable if we didn't know that, but not just from like his actions as a human being, but look at the pictures of Kayla. Does that look like a girl who's finished puberty to you? Like, she's got no tits. She looks like a child.
You've been looking at that picture of that girl's tits. Well,
no,
I know what you're saying. She's not. Yeah. You look at the end of the day. Anybody that's listening to this,
she's not developed.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, right, and this might be something that, well, this is probably a good reason it's going on your channel, that might draw a little bit of heat. But you could go out, and I think we've discussed this kind of before, but you could see a girl that's like, and I guess it's different for us as well to America, where the general age of consent is 18, whereas in Europe, the average age across Europe is 16, but some places lower, with the only exceptions being Ireland and Lithuania, where it's 17. Nowhere is as high as the United States. But you could go out and you could look at a girl and you could go, oh, she's fit, but she looks like a woman.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be honest. That when I come to visit you in Spain, the general sort of feeling about sexuality and things like that is a lot more open in Spain than it is in Britain, and Britain's kind of renowned for being a little bit sort of yeah. So we've often, like, you know, walked through the town with a beer or sat down and looked at somebody from the wrong angle. Yeah, you looked at and we've thought, wow. And then they turn round and you look at their face, you're like, you feel disgusted with yourself for looking. You're like, it's almost like you scream inside, isn't it? But
it's like, yeah.
But is. What we're saying is, with Kayla, or what he thought was Kayla, she doesn't look anything. You could tell someone who's not even probably started puberty. But the issue that we've got with what makes Lorne's worse is because she didn't at all look like an adult. She looked like a child. This is the issue, isn't it?
Right, I'm going to give you a bit of a hypothetical question here, Andy, but you might have to look up Google if you've got it open, because I know you don't really know much about pop culture. Sorry, but let's say, for example, rather than the pictures of Kayla, let's say it was someone else who was underage but looked like that. In fact, no, that's probably a bad example. I was going to say someone like Danielle Bregoli. But do you know who I mean?
No.
The Cash Me Outside girl?
No.
Okay.
Not a fucking clue.
I mean, she's not attractive because she.
You said I don't know anything about pop culture.
Well, you clearly don't. You've got to watch that. You don't watch enough Dr. Phil, Andy.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like Jeremy Kyle, but in the States, but he's a lot calmer and a lot more intelligent than the Jeremy Kyle show. But I actually must admit, Jeremy Kyle show is my guilty pleasure. I like to watch it. Well, yeah, but I like to watch it and go, I'm glad that's not me. Look at the dregs of society and laugh at them.
Right, but if there wasn't that aspect, if it was just like, you know, watch it for entertainment value, surely there'd be nothing.
At the risk of making myself sound like a pervert here, which I probably will, she is a girl who's underage, but is developed. Now, if those pictures were there, in my opinion, solely my opinion, it wouldn't be so bad. But Lorne is clearly attracted to women who are pre-pubescent.
I've speculated. I'll start again. I have speculated about this before. I always try and get to the very, very root cause of where all this comes from, because attraction to children isn't fully understood 100% in a scientific aspect, biology and all that. However, with Lorne, because we know he's ridiculously immature, he's never really developed properly, both emotionally, intelligence-wise, emotional intelligence, common sense, wisdom, all that kind of stuff, for many reasons. He can relate more to somebody of that age, in my opinion. We don't know about his past with girlfriends. What we do know is he's never been in what could be considered a serious relationship. I think that's a fact. So he's never had this emotional maturity. And when he was talking to Kayla, it was like he'd found his own little pocket that he could sort of open up into. Does that make any sense?
That sounds disgusting.
Oh, I didn't really mean it like that, but you know what I mean, though. I meant like he was on her level. The thing that sickens me, there's two things that sicken me the most about the whole thing. One of them is when he tries to get her to experiment, which is just like despicable. I just can't understand that part. And the other one is when he hears her on the phone and he's not deterred at all because she sounds like a fucking 5-year-old.
Yeah.
There wasn't even part of him. Do you listen to the phone calls?
I don't know if we have a garage or not.
Don't think. Oh yeah, she does say that, doesn't she? You're disturbingly good at that voice.
Wow, there you go.
But what I don't understand is his first reaction when he hears it is, "You sound so sweet." It's like,
Yeah.
well, you could hear. There's not one part of him that thinks, "Oh my God, what the fuck am I doing?"
Well, you're kind of making the same point I did, but you're talking about the sound of the voice rather than the pictures. And the point I'm making is, okay, like, you could see a girl here that's 14, 15, but like you say, you see her from the wrong angle, and she is developed. She is a woman. I mean, there's plenty that aren't, and there are plenty that are. It's that age. The whole kind of consent thing only came in, in modern era. It used to just be you would find a wife once she had passed puberty. But like that, I mean, that's the difference between a girl and a woman. And this is the thing here. Lorne is attracted to girls rather than women. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone who's past puberty is a woman, but do you understand what I'm trying to get at here? Like,
I understand that you're petitioning to have the age of consent lowered in Spain. That's what I understand.
I've been picketing the last 3 days. Lower the age of consent before my trousers. But yeah, no. And I hope people understand the point I'm trying to make here. The thing is, the pictures and the voice, it all adds up to a little girl. It's something that you wouldn't want to sleep with a woman that doesn't have tits, would you, or an arse? That doesn't even grow pubic hair.
Are you trying to say that if a woman, for whatever genetic reason, didn't grow breasts, you wouldn't, you horrible bastard? That just shows how shallow you are. Fucking you. Are you hearing this, guys?
You don't know how many women I've kicked out because their tits were too small. No, I'm joking. No, but that's different because some women, get A cups and some get F cups, and that's just the luck of the draw.
I like, on a personal level, Oh, never mind.
No, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, like, from the personal point of view, I like girls with small tits and big tits. Don't know what the fuck that's got to do with anything, but
as long as they're nice, I suppose.
No, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't bother me. Like, girls are like, some girls are dead like conscientious about the boobs, which is, living in today's world of social media and Insta chat and all that bollocks. It's no wonder, but they shouldn't be really. What?
No, it's just you called it Insta chat, so I was saying Snapgram.
What's it called? Instagram.
Oh, you've ruined the joke, Andy. It's too late. Any humour that was in it, you've extracted it and trampled on.
Listen, any humour that was going to happen in this video was extracted the minute you started talking, so don't worry about it.
Yes, wow. Anyway, yes, of course, we live in a society where people are judged by looks, and as much as, it's a bit of a shame, actually, because kind of ruined that. We were kind of progressing, I would say, to an extent where people were looking deeper than that. And then you've got stuff like Snapchat, like Instagram, where people literally pick up followers because of how attractive they are. I mean, Instagram models is a term I've heard. It's not something I really understand, but people that make money just because they're attractive and they whack sort of revealing photos of themselves on the internet. And because it's the internet, anyone who wants to can do it. So people who aren't as gifted in looks or body-wise as other people do feel under pressure. But I think we're sort of getting into a deeper topic now.
Yeah, we're getting into one of our Friday night podcast topics, aren't we? Because we're always talking about women's breasts. That's pretty much all we talk about. One of my favourite topics. But, getting back... I think the reason I said his crime's hypothetical, what I wanted to examine is what his crimes were. So let's look at one of the crimes was attempted production of child pornography. This is something I wanted to discuss with you.
All right.
Now, this is one of the things that makes him really angry, and to an extent, I can understand it. Now, like I said, there's always been people that have said I'm like, I defend him too much and a sympathiser and all that bullshit. But all I'm interested in is the truth. I'm not on anyone's side. It's just the truth I'm interested in. And the thing is, attempted production of child pornography, that was made, those laws were made to prevent people from exploiting, number one, exploiting children and producing this disgusting material and circulating it on the internet. So it's to try and prevent paedophile rings. Now, Lorne wasn't trying to do that. Lorne suggested in the chat that he was going to take photographs of her. Would he have done that? There's a high probability.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it does. And he brought a camera with him. Now, you would argue that he's banged to rights there, wouldn't you?
Well, I think in the chat, or was it even on the... No, it was in the chat, I think, and he says, I want to take a photo with my penis go inside your vagina. You know, as much as he can try and blag it and say, oh, I was taking the camera to pawn it off on the way there, some fucking dollar shop camera, you know, he paid $1 for it. He's not going to get 10 cents back, is he? But, like, he wanted to take photos of a little girl.
Yeah, and so I think it's fair to say... I mean, he pled guilty, by the way. The courts said to him, we've got enough to get you stitched for like 10 years because of this attempted... So it was a plea agreement, and they said, you accept 5 years, and we'll leave it at that. So in other words, was it fair and justified to... doing with this attempted production of child pornography, understanding the context of why that original offence was brought in?
I would say yes, and I understand the point you're trying to make in regards to, I don't think he would have circulated those pictures. He wanted them for his own personal use, but he was still trying to make child pornography.
Yeah, and manipulate a child.
That. Yeah, whether it was for himself or whether it was to share to other people, it still stands. That's what he was trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you can't, the reason I say it's hypothetical at the beginning is we don't know if he'd have gone through with it. All evidence would suggest there was a high probability. Laws and prison terms are supposed to be brought in for it's usually twofold: rehabilitation and protecting the public. Was Lorne a danger to a lot of children? Potentially. I don't think he's the worst out there, but there was enough within that chat log to suggest that there's something not quite right. I think we can all agree with that.
So Lorne was attracted to teeny boppers, to put it in his own term. He was after teeny boppers. He messaged 3 different girls that were all around the same age. If you went in a chat room and you saw the name Disney Princess, I would think straight away, right, I'm not messaging that person because it's bound to be a little girl. I would look for, like, I don't know,
Disney Princess Minor. That's what you'd look for.
No, I'd look,
Disney Princess's younger sister. Oh, there we go.
No, if you saw like a cool name, like I love
scammers. I love scam baiters. I love scam baiters, please.
If you saw a cool name like IREX Scammers, then yeah, of course I'll talk to that person because they're probably the best person in the world. But if you saw a name like Mistress Dominatrix 74, maybe not 74 because that might be her age, but you know what I'm saying. But if you see a name like Disney Princess, you're going to be like, right, I'll steer clear of that.
Well, it's not the names of the decoys that fucking disturb me. It's fucking... I mean, the thing is, I don't think Lorne spent his day-to-day life looking for children. It's more, most people agree that he was kind of an opportunist. Yeah. He was he couldn't get a girlfriend, and when he did, he couldn't keep one, and he'd been scammed a lot. So he's massively insecure, got massive psychological issues from the past from various things. He couldn't get a girlfriend, lonely, sexually frustrated, and through the internet, he found a way that he thought he could get gratification. He could fulfill those needs, which was the sexual element, the sort of psychological burden of being lonely, insecurities. He thought, I can manipulate these people because they're young and they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, you've kind of contradicted yourself here, because you said earlier that he was trying to speak to someone on his level because he was immature, and now you're saying that he thought he could manipulate them, that statement I agree with. But
he's still an adult. Just because he's on their level, on an emotional level, doesn't mean that he's like a 13-year-old on every aspect. if you look at the
disagree.
chat log, there's, I wouldn't say sophisticated manipulation techniques, but there was manipulation techniques that a 13-year-old boy generally wouldn't come out with.
No, I agree with that. I disagree that I don't think he had the emotional maturity. Like, some people can grow up and would have the emotional maturity of a 13-year-old. You know, you take someone like Chris Chan, for example, who always had a lower emotional maturity. His dad says it in one of the videos when talking about him. You know, his emotional maturity has always been about 3 years behind what he is. Lorne is not a diagnosed retard. Looking at him, you might
That's probably
say,
the nicest thing anybody's said about him.
I mean, looking at him, you might go, yeah, he's definitely a spastic, but but he isn't, so he doesn't have that as an excuse. He is a manipulative human being with low intelligence, and that's, you know, this is. But he also is, and I will say this till my grave. He is attracted to minors, and by that I don't just mean in layman's terms someone under 18. I mean someone who has not passed puberty, which makes him an absolute degenerate.
Yeah, it's not. It's the parts of the. So if we go through his crime, right, which is what I wanted to. There's two offences that he got done for. Attempted child. I think there might have been several, because there's like crossing state lines made it more complicated. So he's kind of like, even though his crime's not really that much different to lots of other people that got caught on TCAP, because of him crossing state lines, and because he had the camera there and he mentioned that, he got a hefty prison sentence compared to a lot. Considering some got away with it, I don't know whether appreciate's the right word, but I can understand why he was fucking enraged that he got 5 years. If someone did exactly the same crime as me, I got 5 years and they got off with it, I'd be pretty fucking furious myself.
Yeah.
So I do understand that. You've got to. It doesn't mean that he should get away with it, and that's where he trips up, really. He doesn't. It's kind of irrelevant that somebody else got off. In a way it is, and in a way it isn't. But the legal system in America isn't perfect, and you only have to look at fucking Making a Murderer to fucking come to that conclusion.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not, you know, it's even worse in the UK to some extent. But so if you look at the attempted child pornography, we can't really argue with that, because regardless of whether he intended to distribute it or not, the fact that he wanted to take photographs of that variety, it just shows zero integrity, to say the least, zero empathy for another person, just nothing. It just shows that you're literally as bad as it can get to want to do that. So I think we can agree that it's not that harsh that they tried to throw that in there.
No, although I would say wouldn't say it was without empathy. I think he truly thought he was in love with Kayla. It's just disgusting that thought he was in love with a kid, and that he would want it to, you know, ruin her innocence.
Yeah.
Trying to pronounce it like the way he writes it, but it's difficult.
Yeah. So we've looked at that. The other one is attempted child solicitation. So in other words, he wanted to have sexual contact with what he thought was a 13-year-old kid. He thought there was a 13-year-old kid there, home alone. He turned up with condoms. He even admitted to Chris Hansen in the unedited footage that he was there and he would have done it. He would have gone. He knew what he was there. They knew what he was there for. He admitted it. He admitted it at court. So even he wouldn't know. He always contests now that he never would have gone through with it. He never meant to do it. But I think I personally think something would have happened. Part of me that's good would like to think that he'd have some kind of awakening at that point and think, what the fuck am I doing? But considering he heard a voice and didn't even sway, evidence would strongly suggest that he would have gone through with it. So even though we don't know, you know, it's a fair charge, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he got what he deserved, and it's disappointing that the other predators didn't all get the same. They all, in my opinion, deserve to have a strong sentence, the same as Lorne's. I mean, of course, I don't say anyone is beyond rehabilitation, but the fact some of them walked completely free is quite anger-inducing.
Yeah.
However, what my main point I wanted to make is that I have come to the conclusion Lorne is now, there's a lot of different words, whether we say paedophile, hebephile. He's attracted to girls who have not completed puberty, which makes him disgusting, to say the least. And whether that justifies everything that's happened to him since or not, I don't know. But he is a degenerate. He is scum.
This video might get taken down.
Sorry.
No, I can't. You're only being honest with yourself. That's all we can ask for. But it's, I suppose, what kind of intrigues me is the whole crime, because there wasn't a real girl there, and there never was. He says in his lawsuit that it is pretty funny. He says in his lawsuit that the crime is bogus in nature. Well, basically, the law states there doesn't have to be a real girl there, as long as your intention and you was that, and to do whatever, and you believe there was a real girl there. It's like, I don't know when this law was brought in, but you're engaging with someone online that you believe is a girl and a young girl in a sexual way. Regardless of whether there's one there, it's still a crime. But the reason Lorne jumps all over it in his lawsuit is he can't process the fact that there wasn't a real victim. He just can't get his head around it.
Well, this actually, the whole sort of To Catch a Predator and the Lorne situation changed my outlook, because I used to think of myself as, well, I still am, hopefully, but very open-minded and
yeah, right.
Right. Anyway. But, well, no, like, I remember going to a head shop when I was at college to go and buy a new bong or whatever and some papers, because you could get, like, gun papers and big papers and stuff at the head shop. And they used to have this sticker on the till that said, "No victim, no crime." Now, obviously, in that case, it was related to smoking weed. And so that was something I always thought about. And I would say it the same in regards to someone stealing something that's worth £2-3 from a giant supermarket conglomerate. There's still no victim there. Lorne's case, there was technically no victim, but it's the only time, or you could say this about any of the predators, it's the only time where I would actually take away this mantra that I saw on the little sticker in the head shop and say, actually, no longer do I agree with that, because although there was no victim, there is a crime that's been attempted here. But many people, I think, would say, well, and it's a very weak defense, because these people were stopped, hopefully. Look at someone like Molesterberg. He had committed these offences before. What the people in To Catch a Predator did in that regard was great, putting this guy who at any opportunity would have taken a child's innocence away. And so it's fantastic. This is the only scenario where I think that I would no longer live by my no victim, no crime mantra, because although there's no victim, these people are criminals, and the worst kind at that.
So they've committed offences, but there's no victim, right? So we can take that out of it. So what's the reason they're incarcerated? Is it punishment? Is it for rehabilitation? Because we can safely say Lorne hasn't been rehabilitated. I don't think he would attempt to fuck a child again, but I think that's more out of fear than anything. But it depends what you're saying he should be in regards to rehabilitation, because as a person, he's always been a terrible fucking human being. And I think it's just within his DNA. That will never change. He's a whiny type. The thing with Lorne is it's a very strange one, because he's 10 years older than us, but he acts like millennials. He fucking, he's, why didn't I get this? Why didn't I get that? This excuses me for doing this shit. And he sounds like, and I'm sorry to sound like a grumpy old man, but he sounds like the youth of today. I've had a poor upbringing, so I treat everyone else shit. No, fuck off. Take responsibility for yourself. Wow, you really go into town on him today.
Well, I don't just mean Lorne, though. I do mean this. We live in a world where you and I have been made to feel guilty because we're white men. We live in a world where everyone wants everything handed to them on a plate, and they no longer want to take any responsibility for themselves. And Lorne acts like that, and it's strange because he is 10 years older than us. He should have been of the generation like us who grew up without the internet, went out climbing trees, got scrapes on our knees, or almost rapping now. And like, you know, we didn't grow up with this kind of information being thrown at us all day long. Getting as a kid, it's probably enthralling and exciting to be able to talk to an adult via the internet, even though most of those adults you talk to will have duplicitous things on their mind. So it's, yeah, Lorne acts like he was born in 1997, not like he was born in 1970.
Yeah.
And that annoys me about his character, but that won't change. We can't say whether or not he's been rehabilitated towards his fancying to children. It's like that Louis Theroux documentary. Unless someone gets him in a thing, puts some photos non-sexually explicit, but young girls in bikinis.
I can safely say he hasn't, because there's one key thing, and I've mentioned this before, at the risk of repeating myself again. Mm-hmm. There's one key element that has to go towards rehabilitation and recovery of this type of situation, and that's admitting that you have a problem. It sounds ridiculously simple. Alcoholics, you know, what do? You admit you've got a problem. What do you do to recover from these, you know, fantasies or whatever you want to call it? Admit you've got a problem. He can't admit it to himself, so how on earth is he ever going to recover? He doesn't even think he's a problem. He doesn't even think he's got any issues.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. He would rather pass the blame to everyone else in the world than sort of having a look inside himself and figure out what is wrong with him.
Yeah, and blame everybody else. I mean, the lawsuits are very, very funny, but at times they're very, very frustrating because you almost feel like wringing his neck. You know what I mean? It's like, God, you know, at no point at any stage of those lawsuits that I've read is there any even hint that he's guilty. It's like Stephen Avery's writing it, and he's been stitched up again completely. Do you know what I mean? It's not the words of someone who's committed this offence, and he just blatantly lies, and it's very frustrating. But saying that, I understand where this, I would say, speck of logic. There isn't, maybe not logic, but he finds a little point, like the district attorney dying. Well, that's not little, but to him it is, because it's got fuck all to do with him. And the fact that there's no real girl there, or the fact that NBC might be a little bit dodgy in the way that they conduct themselves, or the fact that perverted justice get a consultant's fee, he'll jump all over that, and that means to him that they're all guilty and he's innocent. Just because everybody else might be a little bit of a touch of grey, which everybody is. Nobody's fucking perfect, and that goes to individuals, to groups, small and big. You know, we're all part of the human condition, which is flawed in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating and amusing. But, you know, we've touched upon the child pornography situation. It's justified. And also is attempting to turn up. When I try and we speak about it, I always say don't condemn him too much, because there is always that possibility that he wouldn't have been able to go through with it. If I was to put money on it, I'd say he would. But there's always that.
I would direct you to his face when he walks in the door and sees.
No, I agree with you. I'm saying that I do believe he would have done. But the point is, let's just say that it wasn't Casey Moreau, it was the girl in the picture, and the girl in the picture went over to Lorne and started doing whatever, and then it's possible that the reality of the situation could have, do you know what I mean? But I suppose that doesn't really change what he's actually done, does it?
No, and I would like to make that, like, I understand what you're trying to get at here, Andy, but at what point might he have gone back, like, literally, she's naked on the bed, and he's whipped his cock out, and he looks at her and he goes, wait, that's a kid, not an adult, I can't do this. I'm sorry, once you got into the bedroom with a kid, it's too late. There's something wrong with you.
Of
Like,
course,
you don't
yeah,
go
we
that
know
far.
that, and it's a bit naive of me to think that he could have, just had this sort of awakening and not gone through with it. But I suppose maybe it's just the part of me that wants to think the best of people. I
All
don't.
right. Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say she was real, and then they got, she said, my parents are away. Let's go and sleep in their room. They go upstairs with the girl from the photos. I mean, she takes her clothes off. He takes his, and then he looks at her. She's like lying on the bed, going, "Come on, I'm ready, Lorne, for my first time." It's tiny penis, and then he goes, "Do you know what? I don't think I can do this." Puts his clothes back on, gets his truck, and turns around. What punishment should he have received if that had been the scenario?
It's an interesting one. Is it? But the thing is it at that case attempted? Is the crime of attempted still into play? Because really, he's not attempted it, has he? He didn't. He went so far and then didn't. There's still definitely crimes that he should have to pay for. And you could even argue at that point the attempted production of child pornography might not have even been a factor because he didn't go down that way. Do you understand? What do you think?
Well, I think, to be honest, if let's take a different spin on it and think if you were that girl's father and then you found out whether or not they had done anything, she'd been alone, naked in a room with a 37-year-old guy. I would be straight round his house and bashing his fucking skull in.
Oh, of course. I'm not. Listen, let's just make sure that we're clear. At no point at that stage should he avoid any kind of prosecution. It's quite obvious. But does it change the context of the crimes? I mean, we're speaking hypothetically here. So for him to get that far and to do what he did, I suppose it fascinates me that. This is the thing, right? I honestly believe that if the decoy hadn't have enticed is the wrong word, but if the person he spoke to wasn't a decoy and a real girl, he'd never have got anywhere with anybody, and he'd never have even got caught, and he'd have just carried on with his pathetic life forever, and nothing would have happened, and he wouldn't have been the type of person he'd have been a potential danger. But he's not the type of person to lurk around playgrounds. Do you understand what I mean? That's what interests me, really.
Yeah, I couldn't see him being, one of those kind of weird old men that lurks around playgrounds or gets a job as a physical education teacher. But he is attracted to underage girls. Now, you could ask the question whether or not that's because he feels they're easier to manipulate than real women. The difficulty is, Lorne, there is a possibility, and I know we know really he's a pussy because I don't think there's been any grown man that has cried so much in his adult life as Lorne. But there is a possibility, because he's had so little real life relationships, that he could harm someone no matter the age, because he is an angry drunk and someone who has difficulty controlling his temper. And of course that's completely hypothetical, but we don't know because we've got no foundation here. We don't know. He's never had a proper relationship with anyone, so no one knows how he really
When he
would
says
treat
like a
other
violent, abusive drunk, I don't think he's half as bad as what people thought he were. He was took to the brink of craziness with all that Ramona situation, and they tried to make him out to be this, that, and the other, and he wasn't quite.
I said aggressive, not violent.
Oh, right, okay, apologies. But what I mean is, he showed himself to be a very selfish, manipulating, angry.
He's a terrible human being, and actually, he for me. And it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I know people are addicted to this kind of lolcow culture and looking at people like Chris Chan and Alex Johans and people like that. But for me, Lorne is the ultimate lolcow. However, like the guys at places like 4chan and Kiwi Farms don't touch him. Like they put something on a thread there. They go, "This is Lorne Armstrong." And the people go, "He's not a lolcow, he's a paedophile." And they're like, well, isn't that even more reason to troll him? But yeah, they don't want to touch it. They would rather fuck about with people who make idiots of themselves on YouTube but haven't actually done any kind of crime. Whereas for Lorne, you have more or less guilt laughing at than anyone else. It's like, I'm sorry to keep bringing him up, but he's someone that we've talked about a lot as well. But with Chris Chan, after we kind of went deep in down Chris Chan's rabbit hole,
I've never been down Chris Chan's deep fucking rabbit hole. Speak for yourself.
Well, I've been where the Sonichu medallion has been. But anyway, but with Chris Chan, I actually started to feel quite bad with the trolling. I thought he's not really done stuff to do this. He's a fairly despicable human being, but he's never done anything on the scale of what Lorne has done to other people.
Oh, no, we can all agree to that. I suppose what it is, it's very easy to sort of go after Lorne. He's terrible, anything's justified. So I think it's kind of important to step back every now and again and actually look. But actually going through it the way we have, I don't think we've done him any favours, really, have we? It was my intention to try and like I said, I'm only interested in getting to the real meat of the bone. It's just, I suppose, when I'm going through the lawsuits, I get where his frustration comes from. It's totally misplaced, but I do get it.
Well, that's just envy, though, isn't it? I could understand it. Let's say both you and I steal an apple, and I get my hand chopped off, and you get a slap on the wrist. Now, I'm going to be pretty fucking pissed off, aren't I? That's envy, and that's a natural thing to feel. If people have tried to commit the same crime you have, and yet they walk away scot-free, and you don't, of course you're going to feel aggrieved about it. But at the same time, like I said, I would have liked to have seen all of the people caught on To Catch a Predator get prison sentences, because they're doing the worst thing you can, which is harm children.
Yeah, it's...
Or at least attempting to do that.
Yeah.
You've got to agree with that. There may be, I can't remember all of them. It's been a while since I've actually gone through the old To Catch Predators or anything, but there may be a few in there that are redeemable, but to some extent, I can't really think of any. None come to mind.
No, maybe we can look into that another time. But we've gone a bit longer than I kind of wanted to. Not wanted to. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We've touched upon some quite controversial subjects. I'm pretty sure people will have strong opinions, but it's been interesting to explore. Any final thoughts?
Don't fuck kids.
I would concur with that. But if you do, check the age of consent in your country.
No, I think just one kind of serious final thought as well. Empathy is an undervalued thing in regards to other people and taking into account other people's feelings. And Lorne is someone that doesn't do that and has a tough time doing that. And I think a lot of people in the world could use being a bit more empathetic or empathic towards other people, and just be a bit nicer to each other. So in other words, be nice to each other. Adam, you are a modern Jesus. Don't fuck kids and be nice to each other. Right. Well, guys, what a way to sum up this little video. Absolutely, I'm sort of motivated by that speech. It's certainly going to change the activities that I have planned this evening. So. Adam, I thank you for taking time out from ruining call centre workers' people's lives. Thanks for having me. And guys, leave any comments and we'll speak to you soon.